If you plant these 21 perennials in June, your yard will look absolutely stunning by late summer and keep spreading for years without you ever replanting. Number 9 genuinely surprised me. June is the secret weapon month for gardeners. The soil is warm, the sun is strong, and fast-spreading perennials are absolutely hungry to establish themselves right now. Whether your yard looks bare, patchy, or just plain boring, these plants will change everything. And the best part, once you put them in the ground, they come back year after year, spreading wider and thicker every single season. We are covering 21 of the fastest, most beautiful spreading perennials you can plant this month, starting right now. Creeping phlox is one of the most satisfying plants a beginner can grow. It forms a dense, colorful carpet that completely smothers weeds and transforms bare slopes or rocky edges into something breathtaking. Plant it in full sun, in well-drained soil, and it will absolutely thrive. Water it deeply once a week while it is getting established, then barely at all once it settles in. This plant is practically drought-tolerant. In June, it finishes flowering and shifts all its energy into spreading. Trim it back lightly after blooms fade and watch it double in size by fall. Next up is a plant that butterflies cannot resist. Coneflower is the backbone of any wildlife-friendly garden, and June is the ideal time to get it into the ground. It loves full sun but handles partial shade surprisingly well. The soil does not need to be rich, just well-drained. Water regularly for the first few weeks, then let it find its rhythm, because mature coneflowers are impressively drought-resistant. Each plant self-seeds freely, meaning a single plant becomes a colony within 2 to 3 seasons. The blooms attract butterflies, bees, and even goldfinches who feed on the seed heads in fall. Leave the spent flowers standing through winter for maximum wildlife benefit. The next plant spreads even faster and smells absolutely incredible. Catmint is one of those rare plants that looks expensive but demands almost nothing from you. It produces long waves of soft lavender blue flowers that spill beautifully over borders and pathways. Plant it in full sun or light shade in moderately fertile, well-drained soil. Water it during dry spells but avoid overwatering, as catmint hates wet roots. In June, cutting it back by 1/3 after the first bloom flush triggers an impressive second flush within weeks. It spreads gradually by clump division and self-seeding, filling gaps effortlessly. Deer and rabbits tend to avoid it, which makes it a practical choice for rural gardens. Up next is a ground cover so aggressive it will shade out almost any weed you can imagine. Creeping Jenny is a ground-hugging spreader that moves with remarkable speed once established. The golden-leafed variety, Aurea, is especially eye-catching and lights up shaded corners like nothing else. It performs best in moist, fertile soil and tolerates partial to full shade beautifully, making it perfect for spots where other plants struggle. Water it consistently during the first month, especially in warmer climates. In June, it roots wherever its stems touch the ground, which means it colonizes new areas almost on its own. Use it along pond edges, under trees, or trailing over container edges for a cascading waterfall effect. What comes next is tougher than it looks and blooms in colors that genuinely stop people in their tracks. Blanket flower earns its name by forming broad, colorful mounds that spread generously across garden beds. The blooms are fiery combinations of red, orange, and yellow, and they appear almost non-stop from June straight through to the first frost. Plant in full sun and lean, well-drained soil. Avoid rich soil because too much fertility makes plants floppy and short-lived. Water deeply but infrequently once established, as blanket flower is genuinely drought-tolerant. Deadheading regularly keeps the bloom show going, but allowing some seed heads to mature encourages natural self-seeding and gradual spreading. This plant is an absolute magnet for butterflies and bees. Next is a perennial that gardeners across the world call almost impossible to kill. Daylilies are arguably the toughest fast-spreading perennials in existence. They push through poor soil, tolerate neglect, come back stronger every year, and spread by multiplying their clumps until you have more than you know what to do with. Plant them in full sun to partial shade in almost any well-drained soil type. Water deeply once a week during the growing season and nearly forget about them after that. Each individual flower lasts only one day, but each plant produces dozens of buds, so the display continues for weeks. Divide clumps every 3 to 4 years and give extras to neighbors or spread them further across your yard. Coming up next is a plant so low maintenance it almost feels like cheating. Black-eyed Susan is a classic for a reason. It produces bold golden yellow flowers with dark chocolate centers from midsummer all the way into fall, and it spreads reliably by both rhizomes and self-seeding. Plant it in full sun in average, well-drained soil. It actually performs better in less fertile soil, so skip the heavy amendments. Water regularly during establishment, then allow it to dry slightly between waterings. The seed heads left standing in winter are a favorite food source for songbirds like finches and sparrows. In spring, new seedlings emerge around the parent plants, quietly multiplying your display with zero effort from you. The next plant brings a tropical feel to any landscape without any tropical maintenance requirements. Hostas are the undisputed champions of shaded gardens, and their spreading behavior makes them incredibly valuable for filling in difficult spots under trees or along north-facing fences. They prefer partial to full shade and moist, well-drained, organically rich soil. Water them deeply and consistently, especially during dry summer stretches, and mulch generously to retain moisture. Plant them in June and they will establish quickly in warm soil, pushing out impressive foliage by late summer. Every few years, each clump can be divided and replanted, turning one plant into 6 or more effortlessly. The bold, textured leaves add dramatic contrast to any garden design. What comes next produces flowers so delicate they look almost too beautiful to be real. Dame's Rocket is the plant that most people overlook, and that is a genuine mistake. It produces tall, fragrant clusters of pink, purple, and white flowers that perfume the entire garden after sunset. Plant it in partial sun to partial shade in moist, well-drained soil rich in organic matter. Water regularly during dry periods, but avoid waterlogging. Dame's Rocket self-seeds so prolifically that a single plant creates a dense naturalistic colony within 2 seasons. June planting allows roots to anchor before summer heat peaks. The fragrance intensifies in the evening, making it a perfect choice near patios or sitting areas. Many gardeners do not realize it is technically biennial but behaves like a true perennial due to constant self-seeding. Lamb's ear is the sensory plant every garden needs. The thick, silvery, impossibly soft leaves spread outward from the center in dense mats that children and adults alike cannot resist touching. Plant it in full sun in poor to moderately fertile, well-drained soil. Overwatering is the only real way to kill it, so water sparingly and allow the soil to dry between waterings. In June, warm temperatures encourage vigorous spreading by offsets and gentle self-seeding. The silver foliage provides stunning contrast next to deep green or purple-leafed neighbors. It is deer-resistant, drought-tolerant, and almost completely pest-free. Remove the flower stalks after blooming if you prefer a tidier look. Next is a spreader that practically paints entire hillsides in summer color. Yarrow is one of the most useful spreading perennials you can grow. It produces flat-topped flower clusters in shades of white, yellow, pink, and red, all beloved by pollinators. Plant it in full sun in well-drained, even sandy soil. It actively prefers poor conditions over rich ones, so do not fertilize. Water during establishment, then walk away, because established yarrow handles drought remarkably well. It spreads by both underground rhizomes and seed, colonizing open spaces with ease. Dried flower heads make beautiful long-lasting arrangements indoors. In the garden, yarrow acts as a natural companion plant by attracting predatory insects that protect neighboring plants. The plant coming up next has one of the most distinctive looks of any spreading perennial. Obedient plant earns its curious name from its individual flowers, which stay positioned wherever you push them along the stem. It produces tall, dense spikes of pink or white tubular flowers that hummingbirds absolutely adore. Plant it in full sun to partial shade in consistently moist, well-drained soil and water it regularly throughout summer. June planting allows it to establish before it blooms in late summer. Fair warning, it spreads aggressively by underground runners, so plant it where you have room or use a root barrier. Divide clumps every 2 to 3 years to control spread and keep plants vigorous. It is native to North America, making it an ecologically valuable choice. What follows is a plant that thrives exactly where most others simply give up. Ajaga, also called bugleweed, is one of the fastest spreading ground covers available to gardeners, and it thrives in the difficult conditions most plants reject. It handles deep shade under trees, competes with surface tree roots, and still produces striking spikes of blue-purple flowers in late spring and early summer. Plant it in partial to full shade in moist, well-drained soil. Water consistently during the first growing season. After that, it largely maintains itself. The glossy, bronze-tinted foliage provides color even when not in bloom and looks striking alongside hostas or ferns. It spreads by above-ground runners, creating a dense weed-suppressing mat surprisingly quickly. The next plant is wildly popular and produces some of the showiest blooms of any spreading perennial on this entire list. Peonies spread slowly but with absolute determination, gradually forming ever wider clumps that return more impressively every single year. They prefer full sun to light shade in deep, fertile, well-drained soil. Good drainage is essential because wet roots in winter are fatal. When planting in June, keep the eyes no deeper than 2 inches below the soil surface. Water deeply once a week. Peonies are exceptionally long-lived, with established plants surviving and spreading for over 100 years in the same spot. The blooms are extraordinary in size, fragrance, and color variety. They are also surprisingly resistant to deer. Coming up is a plant that creates a true meadow feel without any of the chaos. Threadleaf coreopsis is the most reliably cheerful plant in any perennial garden. It forms neat, finely textured mounds covered in bright yellow or pink daisy-like flowers from June all the way through September. Plant it in full sun in well-drained soil and water regularly during the first season. Once established, it is remarkably drought-tolerant and spreads by self-seeding and gentle clump expansion. Deadheading extends the bloom period significantly, but even without it, the plant reblooms reliably. It is deer-resistant, attracts butterflies, and pairs beautifully with ornamental grasses and black-eyed Susans for a natural meadow aesthetic. Divide every 3 years to reinvigorate plants and spread them further across your landscape. Next is a fragrant spreading classic that never seems to go out of style. Bee balm is practically wildlife royalty. Its shaggy, vivid red, pink, or purple flower heads draw in hummingbirds, bumblebees, and butterflies like a magnet all season long. Plant it in full sun to partial shade in moist, fertile, well-drained soil and water consistently because this plant dislikes drought. Good air circulation is important to prevent powdery mildew, so space plants generously. Bee balm spreads aggressively by underground rhizomes, so divide it every 2 to 3 years to keep it in bounds and looking its best. The leaves are wonderfully fragrant and can be used to make a delicious herbal tea. June planting allows it to establish and reward you with a full bloom display by midsummer. The next plant is one of the most striking spreaders for any sunny border. Russian sage creates a cloud of silver stems and violet-blue flowers that drift and sway with every breeze, giving any garden a soft, ethereal quality unlike anything else. Plant it in full sun in well-drained, even dry soil. It absolutely cannot tolerate wet feet, so avoid heavy clay unless amended with grit. Water sparingly after establishment, as Russian sage is genuinely one of the most drought-tolerant perennials available. It spreads modestly by self-seeding and gradual clump expansion. Cut it back hard in early spring to encourage vigorous new growth. Deer and rabbits avoid it entirely due to its aromatic foliage. It is stunning paired with ornamental grasses or yellow-flowered companions. What comes up next is a true workhorse spreader for edging and borders. Sedum, specifically the upright varieties like Autumn Joy, is one of the most structurally interesting spreading perennials for a landscape. It builds thick, succulent clumps that spread wider each year, producing large, flat flower heads that shift from pale green through pink to deep copper as the season progresses. Plant it in full sun in well-drained, moderately fertile soil and water minimally, as overwatering causes floppy stems and root rot. June planting gives it the entire summer to establish before flowering in late summer to fall. The dried flower heads stand attractively through winter, providing structure and seed for birds. Divide clumps every 3 to 4 years and they will continue performing indefinitely. The next plant on this list is the fastest spreader of all and works in almost any condition. Liriope, or lily turf, is the ultimate no-fuss spreading border plant. It forms dense, grass-like clumps with arching deep green or variegated foliage and produces spikes of small violet flowers in summer followed by shiny blackberries in fall. Plant it in full sun to full shade in almost any well-drained soil type. Water regularly during the first season, then nearly ignore it. Liriope is one of the most adaptable perennials available, handling poor soil, compacted soil, dry conditions, and even light foot traffic. It spreads by underground stolons and clump division, making it exceptionally useful for edging paths, stabilizing slopes, or filling in under trees. Cut foliage back hard in late winter to keep plants fresh and tidy each season. Goldenrod has spent decades unfairly blamed for hay fever, which is actually caused by ragweed that blooms at the same time. The truth is that goldenrod is one of the most ecologically valuable spreading perennials you can plant. It produces arching plumes of brilliant golden yellow flowers from late summer into fall that support over 100 species of insects, including native bees and monarch butterflies. Plant it in full sun in average to poor, well-drained soil. It spreads vigorously by rhizomes and seeds, so give it space or contain it with a root barrier. Water during establishment, then it is essentially self-sufficient. Do not fertilize, as rich soil causes excessive height and flopping. This is the plant that transforms an ordinary yard into a true wildlife sanctuary. Speedwell closes out this list as one of the most underrated spreading perennials available. It produces tall, elegant spikes of deep blue, pink, or white flowers that appear in June and often again in late summer if deadhead promptly. Plant it in full sun to light shade in moderately fertile, well-drained soil. Water consistently but avoid waterlogging. It spreads steadily by both clump expansion and self-seeding, gradually building into impressively full, low-maintenance colonies. Speedwell is highly attractive to bees and butterflies and pairs beautifully with roses, salvia, and ornamental grasses. It is deer-resistant, relatively pest-free, and one of the most reliable rebloomers in the perennial garden. Dividing every few years keeps it vigorous and allows you to fill your entire landscape for free. So there you have it, 21 fast-spreading perennials that will transform your yard, garden beds, slopes, and borders into something genuinely lush and alive. The best time to plant them is right now in June, while the soil is warm and plants have the whole season ahead of them to establish and spread. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these 21 plants are you most excited to try? Drop your answer in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss another gardening video. I will see you in the next one.